All right, a good Erev Shabbos. We're going to do the 12th and the 13th today in the Tanya and the 12th in Hayom Yom. Here's Hayom Yom. Seichel and hispilus, intellect and emotion, excitement, are two separate worlds. Intellect, a world cold and settled. Excitement, a world seething, unsettled, and tumultuous. This then is man's avodah, to fuse moyach, mind, and the heart, moyach shalat alalev, right? That's our Tanya, that's the avodah, to fuse mind and heart. And how would that fusion look like? The unchanneled tumultuous, which is the heart, excitement, then becomes transformed into a focused striving and aspiration. The energy of the heart is now channeled, guided. And the intellect, that cold world, is now informed by the warmth of the heart, and it becomes a guide in a life of avodah and action. No problem. So we'll continue now with Tanya today and Shabbos, starting on page 303 in Lessons in Tanya.
Were you going to do for Shabbos also?
We always do. Friday we do Friday and Shabbos. Lesson in Tanya, we do page 56. So we described what yesterday appeared to be, and I said appeared to be because we're going to contrast what we learned yesterday with what we're going to learn today. A very high level, which we summed up by saying a makaver moment when the chariot and the rider are together. However, you'll notice in that construct there are still two things. There's a chariot and a rider. There's a deeper level of unity, which we're going to discuss today. It's right in the middle, a little bit lower than the middle of the page. The line begins Rak l'ratzon ha'elyon, and then we go over to the left after the colon. However, hamachshava v'hahira b'divrei Torah, when one thinks and listens into the voice of the Torah, shebamoyach, in one's brain, he's studying Torah, learning Torah, taking the Torah in one's brain and in one's mouth, right? Because the mitzvah is to speak words of Torah. B'divrei Torah, shebepeh, in his mouth. Shehem levushei hapanimim shel nefesh elokis, which these are the two inner garments, right, of the nefesh elokis, the three garments. So machshavah and dibur. The labor of course, is coming out to the outside, but it's at least reveals its source within the mouth. And Maisa is the external, external part of the garments of the soul. So when one learns Torah, sits and takes in Torah in one's brain, and you do that with the levushim of thought and speech, the internal garments of the godly soul, and how much more so the godly soul itself, which is now enclosed in the thought and speech of the Torah. So when a person engages in Torah, so the soul and its internal garments, all of them are united mamish in a complete unity with the will, with the supernal will. And it's not like a chariot and a rider. There's a complete unity here, not like a chariot alone. Because the supernal will, hu advar halacha. Remember, we have to remember this. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, the first commandment. Ani nafshi kosvis yavis. God puts His very self into the Torah, which is different. Easily we can contrast it with worlds, where He doesn't put Himself in worlds. He puts His speech into worlds, just the external garments. But in Torah, He has put Himself. And that's the Devar Halacha itself. So when you're concentrating in your mind and speaking, you're speaking and your mind and speech united with God Himself. Shekol halachas ein pirtei hamshachas pnimius ratzon elyon, because all of the halachas are specific drawings down of the supernal will, which the will is one of the deeper powers of Hashem. It's the source of Tainug, which is the Hashem's inner delight, and it's the source of what He wants, His ratzon, His will for all of everything. So when you do that, and that's invested in the Torah. So kach ola beratzoni is baruch shedavazu mutar akasha. Because why do we say it's a supernal will? Because everything that the Torah says about what's permissible or what's not permissible, or what's kosher, or potter or zachai, whether a person is obligated in a court or gets free from a court, or the opposite, all of these are embedded in results of expressions of God's will. And all the combinations of letters. Letters come, as we've learned in other later section of Tanya and in a lot of Chassidus, letters come from kadmus seichel, they precede even intellect. Letters are the building blocks of everything, and they are deep in God's consciousness. So all the letters with their nakudas and their tamim and their tagging, their vowels and the melody, that all of that is embedded way, way deep in God. And that's put into the Torah. And they are those energies which are put in the Torah. They are Hashem, drawings down of Hashem's will and His wisdom, which is united with Him, with the Ein Sof Himself, with a complete unity. Shehu HaYedeya, as the Rambam says, He is HaYedeya, He's the knower, the Hu HaMada, He's the knowledge, and He's the Yoda, He's also the thing known. So there's zero separation. There isn't a chariot and a rider. There's a complete unity. I would call it almost like a resonant frequency. When a person learns is involved in Torah, you and the Torah are one, resonating. And resonating is probably not even a good way to say it, because that implies there's two frequencies resonating with each other. This is a simple unity with the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. And this is what is written. It's this is what it says. It's a Zohar, that the Torah and the Holy One, blessed be He, are one. The Torah is not like the mitzvahs, which are the limbs of the king. The Torah itself and God Himself are one. And since in the Torah, God's will, which is united with Himself, is in a state of revelation, a complete revelation. The Torah tells you what God's will is, and your inner dimension is united with that. Your machshava, your moyach, and your mouth, the two more internal aspects of your nefesh, are united with that. And so there's no concealment. There's an open channel here between God's Ratzon HaElyon and you and your soul. No hiding whatsoever. With klal b'klal at all. The nefesh elokis, in the godly soul, and its garments, apanimim, and its inner garments, which is your thought and your speech at the time that you're engaged in Torah. When a person occupies himself in Torah, when you learn Torah, invest your time and are oisig in Torah. That's the word, occupied. That's that, you're in the present with the Torah, occupied with it, with your garments. So you are your internal garments. You're united with God Himself. In that time, with a complete unity, just like the unity of the speech and thought of God Himself, as it is in His essence. In this state, there is no separation whatsoever. Not even there's no hester panim at all. There's no concealment. You're face to face with God, panim el panim, face to face. And here we're not saying two faces either. We're saying a unity, a complete unity, not like the Merkava and the rider. And in addition, not only that, this unity is a deeper unity, a stronger unity than the unity of the Or Ein Sof as it's invested in the supernal worlds. Because in the Torah, God's will is completely revealed in one's garments, as those garments are engaged in the Torah. Because one is involved in the Torah itself, as we said, and the Torah is where God has invested himself. And whereas the supernal worlds, remember, Olam is Milashon Helam, Ayin Lamed Mem is Helam. Worlds, no matter how high the worlds, they're Makablim Kiyusim Awar B'Chayas and Nimshach Mehatorah. They're receiving life from the Torah, Shehirat Tzoni B'Chak Mosiyas Borach, as is written, that which is God's will and wisdom. Because you can see Kulim B'Chak Mosisa, everything is made with God's wisdom. V'im Kema Chochma Shehiyat Torah Lamayla Makulim. That Chochma is the tool with which God creates worlds, right? But in Torah, you are united with that tool itself, with that energy itself, which is Chochmah, and even higher than Torah, higher than Chochmah, which is will, which is Hihi Ratzoni Yisborach, which is God's will, His blessed will, Hanikra Saiviv Kolalmin, which surrounds, it's called that which encompasses all worlds. In relation to worlds, that energy, which we call the Ratzon Elyon, is not mislabish in it. It's not enclosed within it. It's surrounding all worlds. It's enlivening them, as it were, from above. It's not penetrating in an individuated way into each of the corpuscles and planets and bodies and spiritual angels. It's an ormakif. Worlds come from their proximate source is only speech. Hashem spoke the worlds into existence. And the inner dimensions of Hashem are makif to that. Whereas when a person is engaged in Torah learning, those deeper levels of Hashem are mislabeshes benefesh, are enclosed in the soul, not enclosed inside the soul. We've got a hold of it. The soul's in its garments. They begin as gili mamish, in a revealed way, mamish, when one is occupied in words of Torah. Even though you may not see this, it's what's happening. And in the bracket he says, why can't you see it? Because of the fact that it's not revealed openly. If it were revealed openly, you wouldn't be able to tolerate it. But since you don't see it directly, but it's happening, you have the inner experience of it, but the actual light of Hashem. Remember, this or that we're speaking about is the organus, the hidden light. He hid it in the Torah, so that other things could appear to have some separate existence. But nevertheless, even though we don't see it with our fleshly eyes, we're united with it, because when we again think and speak Torah, we're thinking and speaking. Our thought and speech those garments are enveloped in God's will and God's supernal will. And this is a perspective opposite us perspective that we have a other perspective, Maisa hu ha'ikar, right? And Maisa is the main thing because he wants it done. But what is it that he wants done? He wants what we do to reflect his supernal will. And how do we get the energy for that? By connecting with his supernal will. And where do we connect with his supernal will? In the Torah. So therefore, this is the mila, the advantage of being occupied in Torah over all the mitzvahs. But tefillah, even higher than and deeper than davening. Which davening represents the unity of the worlds, of the worlds. Of course, this is a very subtle thing, but there are those, at least were those, maybe there still are those, who are in the category of Torah u'manase. Torah is their profession. And they're not, and you're not mechuyev, you're not obligated to separate from your learning, except for certain things, like the first sentence in Krishma. But so essential is the human connection to Torah, and essential in two ways. Essential meaning necessary, and essential meaning part of essence, that if the Torah is your profession, you don't have to separate and daven the 3 davenings a day. Just Krishma and something else I don't remember, maybe someone else does, are sufficient. So if your Torah is not your profession, you do have to interrupt. If it's not your profession, you have to interrupt to daven. And because a person whose Torah is not his profession is anyway going to interrupt learning Torah. So if you're anyway going to interrupt Torah, then, well, you got mitzvahs to do. One of them is davening, and the other is mitzvahs ma'asiyos. But back to Torah. So here we've got a perspective which I don't know whether we've touched it yet in the Tanya, and it's not even representative of most of what we talk about in Chabad. Right? The deed is the main thing. Hashem wants a dwelling place in the earth down here below through our deeds and our extending ourselves and our shlichus and all of that. But it's interesting, I don't know if of those of you who may have learned the Bas Lagani this year, Membes, that mimer itself speaks entirely about this, about the essentialness, and I mean criticality and connection with essence of Torah, and which is really the driving energy of our godly soul, and is the source of the Ava Misuteres, the hidden love that we have, and it's the place where our souls reach the infinite through uniting with the infinite, which is Hashem Himself, as He's invested in the Torah. And when a person does this, engages in Torah, one draws upon oneself the Yira Gedoyla, this awesome level. The lower level is called fear, but this is the awesome level of Hashem's greatness, in one's occupation in Torah. When a person will meditate, contemplate, how one's soul and the garments of the soul, in the brain and the mouth, are mamish one with, not two things like a man in a chariot, but mamish a yichud, a singularity, united with God's will, the order so Baruch Hu, and with the infinite, with the light of the infinite one, blessed be He, mamish, hamizgala bahem, which is now being revealed in one's soul and its inner garments. Which that union is something, and that unity of soul and inner garments with Hashem's will is a expression, is in a unity that all the worlds, all the upper and lower worlds have fade away into nothing in front of that. And everything, the upper worlds and the lower worlds in relation to that are like absolutely nothing mamish. Because this is not enclosed in the worlds. The worlds, Lashon Helam, they're getting this level only in a makiftik way. We're getting this level in a panemius way. It's part and parcel of who we are. The worlds get it. It's just encompassing them. Everything is makif, in a surrounding, hovering way. Just to keep them in life. And in these garments, we're back to our garments, these garments, the inner garments of the soul, in the soul and its internal garments, this essential light, which is the light of Hashem's Ratzon itself, as we said earlier, is a bit, it's labeshes besoichem, it's enclosed within them, only mashi yochelim lispal, as much as we can bear. Because if it were naked and exposed, we would completely disappear. This is what's written in Devorim. Yitzavnu Hashem es kol hachukim ho'ela. Hashem has commanded us all of these chukim. Again, we're looking. Chuk is the pasuk is saying it this way, but we're talking about chukim, levels of Hashem that are totally beyond understanding, which is what a chayk is, And God's supernal will, which we cannot ascribe any reason to his reason, any reason to what he wants, except this is what he wants. And that sense of a choik, that engravedness, that's what choik means. Choik, that engravedness is engraved in our soul and in our garments, the internal garments, when we learn Torah. Okay. This is what's written. Hashem commanded us all of these hukim. And here we're referring to be in awe of him. This is the great, as we call it, the Yira Gedoyla, the level of awesomeness. Well, as he says, on this level called Yira Gedoyla, the great fear, which is the awesomeness of Hashem, Amru, they said, Im ein Chochma ein Yira. If your mind isn't, Chochma is your the deepest part of your mind. If your mind is not engaged in God's mind, then you can't acquire this Yira, this awesomeness of living with the awesomeness of Hashem. The HaTorah nikras etzlo Torah l'dorota. And the Torah is called, in relation to this, experiencing this Yira Gedoyla, this great awe, it's called the gateway, the gateway to the dwelling. Torah l'dorota, it's Aramaic. The gateway, shara would be in Hebrew, shara, is Torah. Torah in Torah is gateway to the dwelling. So this engagement in Torah, Isaac b'Torah, is the gateway, the openingness to the essence of the soul. This is what we're describing here. How, remember, the whole progression is, how do you tap the essence of who you are? This is not something you acquire. This is something you bring to the surface of what you have been all along. Moshe Kosev has written another place. But not every head, not every brain can get to this level, take this level. However, even a person whose brain can't get this level, not any of it, not even a little bit of it, because of the low level of that particular person's soul, its roots, its soul root, and where it came from. Maybe it came from the lower levels of the lowest level, which is the 10 spheres of Seer. You should know, even if you, and this is going to be the stepping off point to the next chapter, even if you can't get this, for whatever reason, I mean, let's say the worst case, that you just don't have a brain to be able to learn Torah. You can't learn. Or you can learn, but you're not Isaac in it. You haven't applied yourself to it the way. So don't worry. He says, this level of awesome, of oneness with Hashem, which results in a sense of the awesomeness of Hashem, does not interfere with your doing. As we'll explain later, and we'll come back now to, as we turn it over to Ma'aseh Ha'ikar. Even if you don't have this this occupation in Torah, which gets you to an inner feeling of connection with your essence and the vibration of essence to essence, that doesn't interfere with you fulfilling God's will, because fulfilling God's will is doing. And that's what we'll go on later. So that's what we got here.
Avi, it's Aviva.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. First of all, this piece of Tanya always blows me away. It's just so overwhelming, the implications. But anyway, at the beginning of the shir, you said that Oneg is part of Ratzon.
No, not really. It's part of Kesser. Ratzon is the lower part of Kesser, and Oneg is the eternal part of Kesser, delight. He doesn't speak here of Tainuk, he just speaks about Ratzon. Because Ratzon is, if you think about hierarchy here, right? Tainuk up above, lower is Ratzon. The next level down is Chochmah. And so the interface between all of that above and down below, that part of Kesser which creates the interface is Ratzon, not Tainuk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good Shabbos. Have a good Shabbos.
Yeah. Anybody else before we say good Shabbos? We're going to take all the bechains quietly. How about Shabbos? We do a little learning. Connect with the Torah. Shabbos is well. Think about Oined, right? Shabbos is for Oined, right?
Yeah,
He
and
created
we're
it
on
for
a
Oined.
completely different level on Shabbos too. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll be able to feel a little bit of that ha'ara. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
It's very Soviet. It's so Soviet.
so let's bring it.
catch.
Try to bring it down to Mamale, right? Try
Does
to
it matter?
what
Does it matter if you feel it? I mean, if you're saying words,
Well, that's what he's talking about. Remember, if you did this, and you would feel Yira Gedolim. You would feel the awesomeness of Hashem. And he said, if a person who can't get that feeling because that connection isn't something that a person can make, so then we'll come on to talking about Maisa Hu Ikar. But that feeling is available because it's our essence. It's just getting to essence. It's not so easy, but Shabbos makes everything easier. Right? And as there's someone said, Rivka, I guess, the Shabbos puts us on another level. We call the day Oinik. There we're going to get to Oinik, even above Ratzon. But the key to it is, at least the key that we're going to take away for this Shabbos, or this moment anyway, is doing it through occupying ourselves on Shabbos in Limud Torah.
In a total way, in some kind of a
Yeah.
way where we're not distracted with everything else.
Try it. Right, that's a good bechain. Let's try it. Let's look for that moment. Baruch Hashem, I'm
Doing
blessed.
Kriya Torah, even doing Kriya. It's a very nice time.
You could do it with Kriya, right? Because Kriya is Torah, after all.
Yeah.
But learn it. Yeah.
Good Shabbos.
All right.
Shabbat
Good
shalom.
Shabbos, everybody. See you Sunday, Mitzvah.
Shalom.
Bye bye.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.